Hey guys, welcome back. We're going to continue our study on words today, and our word of the day is going to be disciple or discipleship. Now, I want you guys to take a second and think of what that word means to you. Like, what is discipleship? Or what is a disciple? The dictionary defines a disciple as one who accepts and assists in the spreading of doctrine of another. Second definition is a convinced adherent, using that as a noun, that sticks or that is of a school of thought or individual. So adhere or to adhere to means stick to. So how do we practice discipline? Yeah, we go to church on Sundays. We stand up, sit down, stand up, sit down, sing some songs. That's a discipline. So, but how do you show that you're really a disciplined individual, like a disciplined Christian? It's difficult, but we're going to talk about Ruth tonight, which Ruth is an awesome story. And you kind of see multiple paths of discipline here. So, one thing you may be thinking, actually none of you are probably thinking it just came to my mind, I thought it was kind of funny. We go from last week, we did the book of Joshua, and we talked about Rahab a little bit, and, Joshua's story, and his devotion, and God's devotion, and all that, and we're skipping over the book of Judges, and a lot of people say, you can't just skip over the book of Judges, there's a lot of good stuff in Judges. You're absolutely right, but let me refer you to the first verse of Ruth, and it says, in the days of the Judges. So, we're not really skipping over anything timeline-wise. We're going to cover Judges. Don't you worry. I like me some Judges. A lot of good stuff in there. So, in the days of the Judges, there was a man named Elimelech. There was a famine in the land, right? And Elimelech, because of this famine, leaves Israel and goes to a place called Moab. He takes him, his wife, Naomi, and her 2 sons. Now, they get there, and Elimelech dies. And so Naomi is now left with her 2 sons who take Moabite wives. One is named Ruth, and the other is named Orpah, not to be confused with Oprah. It's actually just, mix up a couple letters and they're the same name, but it's different. So, if you're wondering why it's not the book of Orpah, we'll figure that out soon enough. Just you wait and see. So, Naomi at this point has already lost her husband, right? And now she's got, 2 daughters-in-law, and then her 2 sons die. So it kind of sucks for Naomi in the beginning of this. But, life happens sometimes. So then Naomi decides, I'm going to go back to Israel. This is what I need to do. I'm going back to Israel. So she turns to Orpah and Ruth and says, you guys need to go, back to your mom and dad's house, live out your lives, marry new husbands, and just have a life. Because if you stick with me, you're not going to have a life. There's nothing that you can do. And both of them say, no, we're going to hang out with you. I promise it's going to be okay. We're going to be fine. And then she says, no, seriously. Naomi does. Seriously. Even if I got married tonight, and had a husband tonight, and we, conceived children, would you still wait for us to have a husband for you to be redeemed? Like, no, you wouldn't. That's dumb. You're going to wait a minimum of, until that guy comes to age, and then you're going to be that many years older than him? That's silly. No, go somewhere. So Orpah kisses her mother, or mother-in-law, and returns to her land. That's why it's not the book of Orpah. Ruth says, if you want to turn to chapter 1, verses 16 through 18, Ruth says, do not urge me to leave you and return from following you. For where you go, I'll go. Where you stay, I'll stay. Yeah, the song, that's where they get that from. She goes on to say, your people shall be my people, and your God my God. Where you die, I will die, and there will I be buried. And may the Lord do more so to me, or May the Lord do so to me, and more also, if anything but death parts me from you. Now let's think about that for a second. So Ruth is dedicating her life to taking care of Naomi. Because, I mean, what else does Naomi have at this point? She has no sons. She has no husband. She has no grandchildren to take care of her. She's just going to go back to Israel and die a woman who doesn't have a husband. And a widow with no rights. So she dedicates herself to this, or to Naomi, and to the teachings of Naomi, and the discipline of Naomi, and puts family first, something that we could probably all, learn from. So, anyways, they return to Bethlehem, and the people say, "Is this Naomi?" And Naomi's like, No, don't call me Naomi. Call me Mara, for the Lord has dealt bitterly with me. Now, a lot of people that come across this verse that sit there, why does she say Mara? Why? So, when the Israelites are coming out of the land of Egypt, at the very first, they come to this river, and it's called the River Mara. And the water is very bitter. Now, Naomi is not thinking of the full story, because what happens there is Moses takes a stick, or a log, and throws it into the water, and the water becomes sweet. So, I mean, if you think about this is kind of Naomi foreshadowing her own story, that it's going to get good, it just takes time. So, they return in the time of barley harvest. And they need food. So, Ruth turns to her mother or her mother-in-law and says, "Hey, let me go out into the field so that I can catch a guy's eye. And, I'll gather food. Maybe I'll get a husband out of it one day." Okay, cool, go. And so they go to the family farm. Now, big family, like extended family farm. And she starts gleaning in the fields of barley. Boaz comes in and starts talking to his men and says, "Hey, who's that? Who's that girl?" And you can kind of envision Ruth just standing up and tossing her hair and the fans blowing and just some random just cheesy love song playing in the background. That's probably not how it happened at all. He just came in and he's like, "Who's that?" And they said, "Ruth. She's the Moabite girl that came home from Moab with Naomi, and she's here to reap. And she's started at sunrise. She's kept going all day, except for a small break." And yeah. So he says to Ruth, let me find it in chapter 2, verses 8 and 9. "Now, listen, my daughter. Do not glean in another field, or leave this one, but keep close to my young women." So, ladies, here's what what Boaz is saying to Ruth. Don't leave here. It's not going to be a good time. You're going to have a bad time if you leave this field. My people, I've told to not mess with you, because you're a good woman. Everybody knows you're a good woman. And she says, "Why have I found such favor in your eyes?" And Boaz answers, "I heard what you did for your mother-in-law. You're being gracious and you're being kind to a widow. That's kind of our thing. That's our true religion." So so then after this little exchange, they eat lunch, right? Boaz actually invites Ruth to the table and says, "Come over here, here's some grain, roasted grain, and dip your morsel, your bread, into your wine until you're full." So that's some foreshadowing of communion, in case you were ever wondering. But so she does. She comes over, she dips her morsel, and she eats until she's full. And as she's eating, Boaz comes over to his other servants, and he says, "Hey guys, when Ruth goes back into the field, whoever she gets behind, don't harvest as well. You know what I'm saying? Like, leave some on the stalks for her. Or leave some on the ground for her. Reap it. But don't reap it that well, so she can have more. And then, take some barley out of the already bundled stacks and throw some on the ground in front of her. That way she's not thinking she's stealing, but we're helping her out. You know, we're helping her and Naomi out, because that's really all they have. So, Ruth returns to Naomi and shows the food. And then Naomi is like, where in the world did you get all this food? Because she brings back an ephah. Now, I did a little research for you. You're all thinking that's really weird. An ephah is equivalent to about 9 gallons. 9 gallons of barley seed. Now, the traditional Jewish texts say it was about half that. But still, 5 gallons, like 4.5 gallons of barley, bro? That's insane. You could make so much bread. That's nuts. That's absolutely nuts. So, like, they're set. They don't have to worry about anything. So, Ruth tells Naomi that she went to Boaz's field. And she tells him about Boaz and tells him about, lunch and this and that. And she's talking, and Naomi says, wait a minute. He's a redeemer. Like, he is in our family. And Naomi said, yeah, I thought it was weird when he said, stay with me. And Naomi explains it a little further. He said, stay with my people, because if you go to another field, they're probably going to assault you. Like, whoa. Assault. Why would they assault? Well, if you're a young woman and you go to a field where nobody knows you and they know you don't have any relatives, there's a good possibility that something's going to happen to you that rhymes with that's a 4-letter word and rhymes with grape. So maybe you should stick, with people that you know. Now, here's another thing. What we're alluding to here is not only staying with people that you know, but Boaz is saying stay around my family. Stay around people that I know are good. People that I know are good, not Christian people at the time, but today's version of the story would be stay around good Christian women. Young ladies, find you a good Christian woman, hitch your wagon to theirs, and learn something. Why not? Guys, do the same thing. Find a strong Christian man. Pull his yoke, or, get up under, share his yoke. Learn something from your elders. I know that's a foreign concept for kids today, but you can learn something from people who have actually experienced life. Weird? I know, right? So, then, Naomi says, I have to do right by you here. I really have to do right by you. You said that, Boaz was the field you went to. So, him being a redeemer and him being so nice to you, he's obviously interested in you. So let's get you married. I want you to go to Boaz. And I want you to, while he's laying down, once he's going to be over here winnowing barley. Once he's done winnowing and he's drank enough and he's happy and he falls asleep, go down right next to him. Lay at his feet and uncover his feet. Then when he tells you what to do, do it. And this is where we get her discipleship. Like she is listening. Ruth is listening to Naomi intently because she wants to do right by her family. So Ruth does. Ruth goes into this place and she watches Boaz, and when he drinks enough, he gets happy, he lays down on some bales, and he falls asleep. She uncovers his feet. Now, I thought that was kind of weird at first. Like, why do they have her uncovering his feet? That's just strange. But if anybody's feet get uncovered and it's a cool night, and you just kind of, you'll wake up because your feet are uncovered. So, it's just one of those weird things. Maybe it's just me. I don't know. But if my feet are cold, I wake up. So Boaz wakes up and he says, who is this? Who are you? And she says, I'm Ruth. And she says, continues, spread your wings over your servant, because you are a redeemer. And I believe she really knows what she's saying here. She's asking Boaz for, to marry her and to redeem their family. So now I've talked a lot about the whole redeeming thing, and I haven't really explained it, so I apologize for that. But the redemption process, like if you had a husband that died, right? You were obligated to go to a family member by the law. You were obligated to go to a family member, marry that family member, and have children to prolong your family's name, to carry on your family's name. All right? So that's what this whole Redeemer thing is about. So it also was a big status thing. So where are we at? So Boaz says to Ruth, may God bless you for not going after younger men, rich or poor, and I will redeem you. But there's another closer than me. So he's saying that there's another man that's closer in bloodline than Boaz is. So he says, here's what we're going to do. I want you to return to Naomi and wait. I will go talk to this man. If he redeems you, great. Your family's redeemed, your status is returned, you're good. If he doesn't, as the Lord lives, like this is how they swore oaths back in the day. As the Lord lives, I will redeem you. So, I mean, it's pretty awesome if you think about it. Ruth goes home and she tells Naomi everything, right? She's talking to her mother-in-law, and Naomi says, just wait. Like the way he said it, this business is going to get handled tonight. Don't even worry about it. It's going to get handled. So, like, let's think about that for a second. God, like, compare God and Boaz, right? Here's Ruth laying at Boaz's feet, saying, please, just help. Restore me. Restore my status. Restore my family's honor. Help us. And Boaz is like, I got you. We're going to do this. Don't you worry. Like, it's going to get done. But what you have to look at is not only is God going to do this, you have to come to God in that same humble manner, that same, humility and almost desperation that you want this change. So Boaz, right? Continue on with the story. Boaz sets up an ambush. And now it's not like a reactive contact military ambush. It's more of a ruse. So he's sitting in the market one day and he sees his buddy. He's like, hey, come here, sit down right here. So the guy comes and sits down, and somehow 10 elders in the village happen to be in the area. So Boaz says, hey, you guys, come over here for a second. And he says in front of all of them, he's like, all right, so Naomi is selling the land that belonged to Elimelech, right? And it needs to be redeemed. We don't need to just let this family land go. It needs to be redeemed. So Boaz is telling, we don't know his name, John Doe. So Boaz is telling John that, this land needs to be redeemed. Do you want to redeem it? Because you're closer than I am. And, John says, yeah, I'll redeem it. Absolutely. Yeah. So Boaz is like, man, dang. So when you buy it, John, you need to realize that Ruth, the Moabite woman that came back with Naomi, becomes your wife, and that you have to have a kid with her to redeem that family name and carry on their inheritance. And then, Redeemer John is like, Nah, I don't think so. That's not cool, man. I'm not doing that. You go ahead and take that right of redemption yourself. And so they're like, shake on it? Yeah, cool. So, in that day, when you shook on it, quote unquote, one man would take off his sandal and give it to another man. Now, I think it would be kind of weird if a guy just pulled off his shoe and handed it to another guy, but that's kind of what we see here, is you would just have, everybody would have mismatched shoes. Strange. But, maybe this is where we get our version of the handshake from. You just take the shoe away from it and you just shake hands. So there's this little ambush that's the little ambush that takes place, right? And then they get married. Ruth and Boaz get married. And finally, Naomi is just happy. And they sing praises and they sing songs. And it's a beautiful last chapter in chapter 4. I'm going to work on getting chapter 4, verse 11 up for you. And reading that, because that one stuck out to me. So they say, chapter 11, then all the people who were at the gate, and the elders said, we are witnesses. May the Lord make the woman who is coming into your house like Rachel and Leah, who together built up the house of Israel. May you act worthily in this land, Ephrathah, and be renowned in all Bethlehem. May your house be like the house of Perez, whom Tamar bore to Judah, because of the offspring that the Lord will give you by this young woman. Now, if you don't know who Rachel and Leah are, they are the wives of Jacob when he went into servitude for 14 years trying to get Rachel. He got Leah first, and then he got Rachel. And with them, they had the 12 sons that would later become the 12 tribes of Israel. All right? So, and then they have a son, and they name this son Obed. Obed, it says later on, is the father of Jesse. Jesse was the father of David, the king of Israel. So, here's what I kind of want to reflect on you guys, or here's our big reflection moment. So, without Ruth coming to the discipleship, being taken under wing by Naomi, none of this might have ever happened. But she sat there and listened to everything Naomi had to say. And it worked out for her. You listen to a woman of good moral standing who's in the Word of God, and it's going to work out for you. Now, when her husband died at the very beginning, Ruth could have easily just said, nope, I'm done. I'm going back home. Obviously, God doesn't like you or your family, so I don't want anything to do with you. But she didn't. So you kind of get this feeling of doing what you want to do versus doing what you feel led to do by God. And I really believe that Ruth was led by God to follow Naomi. She had a feeling. She knew she was being called to do that. So here's the thought that I want to leave you guys with. It's a really deep thought. I want you guys to think about this for a minute. Now, last week, I remember we talked about devotion, we talked about Rahab. So, we turn to Matthew, right? Matthew chapter 1, verse 5. Now, Matthew chapter 1, the very beginning of it, is the lineage of Jesus, right? You have, we start off with a man named Salmon, Salmon, M-O-N, who fathered Boaz by Rahab. So right after Jericho falls. Rahab comes in and marries this man named Salmon, and has a son named Boaz, which is this Boaz, who fathered Obed by Ruth, who fathered Jesse the king, who after about 14 to 15 generations later was the father of Joseph, who was the father of Jesus. What I want to leave you guys with is your decisions today affect generations that you couldn't possibly think about. Boaz had no idea. Rahab had no idea. Ruth had no idea that they would be heirs to the throne of Jesus. Like, they had no idea that they were in that lineage. But they were doing what God told them to do. And how do we, what does that look like for us today? Read your Bible. Find out. Know the stories. It's not hard. I mean, it can be. Don't get me wrong. It is very difficult sometimes to make time to read your Bible. But at the same time, wake up 10 minutes early. Do 10 to 20 minutes of reading. I do 2 to 3 chapters a day. I know, some of you guys think I'm the smartest man on the earth when it comes to this Bible. I'm not. Nope. But I dedicate myself to what I'm doing, and I spend a week on the same 3 to 4 chapters. A week in those same 3 to 4 chapters, just going over and over, so I can tell you guys an amazing story. And I hope it continues, because I enjoy doing it. And I'll keep posting videos, and, hopefully you'll keep liking them. So, to close, thank you guys for watching the video. Travis would like for me to tell you all to share, and, like, and comment, and do all that stuff. So, there's that. And I'll see you guys next week. Thank you again for your time.